last hour. Oh, I didn't forget that our friend John Hawkins had a fairly remarkable piece at Right Wing News involving, among others, Boehner and Cantor and somebody named Cathy McMorris Rodgers. She's the Republican conference chairman, holding the number 4 slot in the Republican Party. She's a Boehner sycophant. And he says almost immediately after Obamacare passed, I started pushing the idea of cutting off the funds for it in the House. He said it got a little traction at the time, and I went so far as to ask all 4 of the GOP's top leaders in the House if they'd support cutting off funds for Obamacare. One of them was Mike Pence, but since he's governor of Indiana now, that's really not relevant. Here's what they had to say back in July of 2010. John Boehner, this is a quote. We're going to fight to repeal this government takeover of health care and start over with solutions that focus first on lowering costs. Cutting off funding for Obamacare is absolutely something I support. For example, I would support moving as soon as possible to deny any funding for the estimated 16,500 IRS employees that'll be needed to implement Obamacare. House Republicans will continue to stand with the American people against this unconstitutional government takeover of health care. That's John Boehner, July 2010. He said that he absolutely supported it. As I read these, I want you to think of the vitriol thrown at Ted Cruz and the others by Pete Boehner and Nicole Wallace and a host of other ex-Bushies and McCainiacs and so forth. John Boehner said this. Then there's Eric Cantor about defunding Obamacare. Yes, without question, Republicans will use every tool available to us to repeal the harmful law. Even in the minority, House Republicans have forced votes to immediately repeal some of the most egregious provisions of the law, including a vote to repeal the individual mandate. But again, when asked about defunding, he said yes, without question. Cathy McMorris Rodgers, her initial response, she's the number 4 Republican. Most of you have never heard of her. I believe she's from the state of Washington. She said, if we're successful in repealing Obamacare, and I'm going to work my heart out to repeal it, that would automatically, by definition, cut off the increased out-of-control spending in the Obama-Pelosi health care bill. As House Republicans constantly told Obama and Pelosi, we need to start over. And once we're back at square one, the way things were before Obamacare, we can begin a better process focused on smaller reforms that can gain bipartisan support. Medical liability reform, enabling small businesses to pool together to purchase health care, allowing insurance to be purchased across state lines, etc. Now, John Hawkins writes, at the time I noted Rodgers punted on the question, but when I ran into her at the 2010 Smart Girl Summit in September of 2010, she personally told me that despite her somewhat ambiguous answer, she was very much in favor of defunding Obamacare. So I would ask the ex-Bushy and McCain sycophants and the others, I would ask them this. Is John Boehner irresponsible? Is he a liar? Was he lying to the base then, or is he lying to the base now? How about Eric Cantor? How about Cathy McMorris Rodgers? Because it would appear that their positions some 3 years ago were not unlike Rand Paul's and Mike Lee's and Ted Cruz's. I thought you'd want to know, ladies and gentlemen. Those men and a handful of others stood on principle from day one and continue to stand on principle.